Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're really happy to have you with us. We have a great bunch of content for you today on SEO, which is a very popular topic. We were thrilled to see how many of you registered. Hopefully, most of you were able to join. We're really happy to have you here with us and to have our special guest with us, Luke Walsh. My name is Hank Hansen, the marketing team here at IHomeFinder, and we're going to jump right into the content here because we got a lot to cover, and I'm going to share the agenda and we'll jump right in. Before we do that, just some tips on using GoToWebinar, our webinar platform. You can open and hide the control panel on the right. You can join audio with telephone or mic and speakers, and your phone is muted by default, or your mic. There is a questions panel in the GoToWebinar panel. You can expand that questions panel and enter a question. We will have a Q&A session towards the end, and we're going to get through as many of those questions as we can. If we're not able to get to all the questions, we will follow up with you individually after the webinar by email. And the webinar is being recorded, so everybody who registered for the webinar will receive an email by tomorrow at the latest with a link to watch the recording whenever you'd like. Okay, so for our agenda today, Luke is going to do most of the presentation here. He's going to start off with SEO trends, how you can make an impact with your SEO, what a strategy looks like, how content plays a role in your strategy. We're going to look at some SEO tools that are available if you choose to pursue your SEO strategy yourself. And we have some options we're going to lay out to help kickstart your strategy. We have a special promotion to talk about that is really, you're going to like a lot. And we have the Q&A session. Anything else you want to add to that, Luke?
No, I think that's it. I'm really excited.
All right. Just a quick bio on Luke. He has spent the last 12 years working in real estate technology space, most recently as a licensed realtor in Oregon. And he's now based in Austin, and he's working towards his Texas real estate license. I think you're super close at this point, right, Luke?
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
Just yeah, it's an easy 180 hours of refresher.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Luke really enjoys sharing his experience to help other real estate professionals leverage SEO and local content creation to help them in their niche. So really happy to have Luke with us. By the way, we had a webinar a few months ago with Luke, and it was pretty much all based on participants' questions on that webinar. And we'll send you a link to that webinar recording as well. It's a great one to check out if you either missed it or you want to go over it again. We've got some great questions from the audience, and Luke did a fantastic job answering all those questions in that webinar. So we'll make sure you get that in the follow-up email that we send to you for this webinar. Okay, so you can take it away, Luke, with SEO trends.
Great, thanks for that intro, Hank. Really appreciate it. And I just wanted to kind of talk about, just from an experience standpoint, you know, and in reference to that last slide, also just one of the challenges that I found as a realtor, and many of you that are realtors are, you know, you're going to identify with this, is the challenge of being a realtor and learning learning all about real estate. For me, it was the last couple of years up until early 2020 in Oregon. And how much of a learning curve that is, just, you know, getting up to speed with being a realtor and learning that skill set, in addition to having sort of the SEO skill set prior to that. And I found that you know, one of the biggest challenges for me is trying to differentiate the roles of realtor versus content production versus marketer versus, you know, what does that look like? And so one of my goals today is to help clarify some of that and what I've learned as being a realtor, and then also from a content marketing standpoint, creating content for websites, content that shows up, high in the Google rankings. So, and the other piece is also related to the portability and IDX and having a website that that travels with you. I think that's immensely important. Having sort of a business card, so to speak, that's online, that where you can create content that follows you over time and then helps build your reputation and build a content presence. So those are two of the main points I wanted to hit before I even get into the details here. But just jumping into the SEO trends piece, I think that I'm sure that a lot of you have heard about, and also I wanted to thank you for taking the time before I get started, taking the time out of your day to listen to this, and I hope that you get a lot of value out of this. Hank and I worked pretty hard to try to create something that we think you're going to walk away from and say, wow, okay, I learned a bit. I learned a little something, and maybe in a couple months I'll come back and do it again. So just getting into the SEO trends, let's get started here. I'll get started. But one of the biggest things is that I've heard on the SEO side has a lot to do with this sort of magical talk or magical thinking that's presented to people in the real estate space and in many spaces, not just the real estate space when it comes to SEO. If I do X, then I'm going to magically show up as, at number one. And that there aren't these other factors involved, and that there's either some kind of technical thing I can do, there's a plugin I can add, there's a whatever it is, and there's going to be just a magical result. And I'm here to say that it just doesn't work that way, and that the only magic that you can create actually has a lot to do with your consistency and your ability and willingness to focus on small wins. And so, I'll get into what those may be, and I'll talk a little bit about what kind of strategy you can take to get there in this next slide here. So I think that, with magical talk, it's distracting, right? So any kind of magical promise, that sort of thing, is going to distract you from what is essentially right now the number one thing you should think about, and the thing that probably you should think about even before 2020, is this concept of user intent. And this comes down to psychology, marketing. It's not just SEO. And one of the biggest trends right now, and this is a quote from Search Engine Journal, which is a very respected SEO resource, is that the traditional best practices and technical best practices, unless you're running a Fortune 500 website, and which case technical SEO is a huge deal with many products, that sort of thing. But typically, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a realtor, you're going to want to focus more on the content, because these traditional best practices and things like, what is in your meta tag? Do you have enough internal links? I mean, those are very important things to pay attention to. What are those links about? Are they linking through the keyword? Those are important, but they're not as important as understanding and focusing on the searcher's intent and creating content, whether it's even just a small amount of content that addresses that intent and really gets to the heart of why somebody is at your website. And the reason for that is because SEO, if you break it down, is fundamentally a very simple sort of concept. If somebody comes to your website, whether it's from a mobile device or a computer and a browser, and they come and then they bounce and they leave your website within a certain amount of time, that sends a signal out to Google or Bing and says, yeah, not really good, useful, valuable content to this person. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a way to merge your content and whatever you write or produce with the user's intent in a way that drives that click-through rate up and reduces that bounce rate. That's called a bounce rate, when somebody bounces off your site and then they go back to search and they look for something else. You don't want them to do that. You want them to stay on your site. You want them to engage with your content and maybe perform a search, that sort of thing. And that's one of the reasons, again, why I recommend having your own portable IDX search tool is once somebody performs a search, that person becomes much less likely to bounce back onto Google or Bing, sending the search engine a signal that they didn't have the content. You didn't have the content that the user wanted. So basically what I'm getting at is that the first thing you should focus on from an SEO standpoint in 2020 and going into 2021 is really thinking about your users and user intent. And I'll give a few examples in this next slide. So here are some great examples of user intent. And these are some, over the past couple of years and prior to that, I worked a lot with neighborhood creation, content creation, and advising on that. Somewhat with getting financed, understanding the process. That's a lot of documentation. The touring open houses was an interesting one for me. I think that holds a lot of promise in ways that people don't consider, especially now with people not wanting more information up front before going into an open house, maybe wanting to know more about, what does it look like to be touring an open house, any open houses during COVID, that sort of thing. And this is not a scenario where in any way where you're claiming that you're hosting an open house on behalf of anybody else, or I would ever recommend that. This is more about having a list of open houses that you can present to buyers as they look on a Thursday or a Friday. Maybe a list of people that get an open house email that has a list of the open houses for the weekend. What you're doing in this case is you're creating user content or you're engaging with user intent without having to create a tremendous amount of content on top of it. In comparison to neighborhoods, so there's a couple different ways to handle this. So the open houses piece is a weekly activity, right? So you would create a weekly open house list. Maybe you have content about some exciting open houses that are going on this weekend, that sort of thing, and then you have a list that you send that list out to those people. I don't recommend that you make that an automated thing. I think that that's something that you could send out. You could send out via email. You could send out via, they're going to get updates through their IDX as well. But I would recommend connecting with them and creating a little bit of content before that weekend hits, because the user intent of somebody touring an open house is typically, I'm ready to buy. I'm at least considering. Maybe I'm not financed, and you're all realtors. You understand this. You understand where they are in the process, and once they start going to open houses, how valuable that person is. So I think that's one area to focus on with user intent. And there are various ways to do that. Neighborhoods, many people that are moving into a new city or a new area, or maybe they've been there a while, but they don't understand or haven't really focused on a certain neighborhood. By focusing on one particular neighborhood or a couple different neighborhoods, you can really create value. And from an SEO standpoint too, I want to talk about, I'd like to go back to the open houses because I want to tie all this into SEO. If people are visiting your open houses page frequently, that sends a signal to Google that your open houses page is valuable to them. And so you will show up higher in the rankings. I saw this play out. It will happen. So you link from your home page to the open houses page, and then you have some kind of lead capture or something along those lines that's going to help you. So going back now I'll just keep going, but learning about the neighborhoods. So with the neighborhoods, if you know all about a niche and all about an area, what I would recommend is that you create, because Google likes custom content, if you have somebody that can do video about a neighborhood, if you can just even get some pictures, some nice pictures that are custom, that are your own, that are not from, they're not free pictures online, but they're actual unique photos that you've created, and you add alt tags to those, and all the SEO stuff that you need to those, that's going to help you quite a bit, along with any custom content you have about neighborhoods. And some of that comes from, you might research what's nearby. You can look up things like what does the neighborhood association say? What do they talk about the neighborhood, if there is one, an association? What can you learn? And then pass that on. It's all about creating value. But once you create that page and you let it sit, and it will get traction over time, because you created something custom and unique that other people aren't creating. And so that's kind of the goal. Getting financed, you can work with, in that regard, you can offer a page that has the calculator. You can focus on the calculator piece. You can have some value that you add in terms of, what does it look like to get a loan? What are some of the things that you're aware of in terms of, somebody that's a buyer that hasn't been pre-approved yet? Maybe they need help being walked through the process. And so you walk them through the process. That content can become valuable as well. So that's another example of user intent. Understanding the process, that's both buyer and seller. Those are very common pages. You see that a lot. What I see a lot of, though, are canned pages where, the broker may provide content, and then it's just sort of, you add the content, and you set it up, and you forget it. Well, that's okay, but it's not. If you put a little bit of time into making that content unique, it will show up, it will rank higher. So again, another example of user intent is making sure that you're creating, engaging with people in a way that prevents them from bouncing off your site when they land on that page. Another one is finding somebody they can trust. I am a huge fan of using video. You'll see that on my own website, that I think that video creates an opportunity to engage with people. And of course, you can take that video and you can repurpose it for social media. You can share it. You can engage with people in that way. And some people, not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to trust you. But if you put yourself out there, you'll be surprised at how powerful video can be, and especially when it comes to SEO. SEO, when you get video out and then you're linking back to your site, that's just going to be immensely powerful over time. So,
hey Luke, I'm really glad you mentioned video. Sorry to interrupt real briefly here. We have some articles on our blog about how you can get started with video production, and you don't have to have a whole collection of video gear. You can literally get started with using really useful and effective video with your phone. And I'm sure you've seen this done too. So I'll make sure we get some links out in our follow-up email to those articles that really provide an overview of benefits of video, how to start using it, and for people with our CRM plans, the email capabilities, we have email campaigns where you can easily add your videos as well. So whether it's introduction to yourself as an agent or broker, introducing yourself to your prospects, or videos about communities like you talked about.
that's a great point, Hank. And I would even add that on the video side, that sometimes audio is even more important than the video. Like the phones take great video now. It's 4K. It doesn't have to be upsized, but sometimes the audio is the biggest challenge, and so you can get these little audio mics and so on. But yeah, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but it becomes fun over time. So yeah.
Yeah, and I just love when we see clients doing that on their custom pages. It's like that page is obviously going to be a lot more engaging than somebody who does not have that kind of content.
Yeah, very true. All right. So yeah, in terms of building your strategy, you know, I talked a little bit about user intent or a lot. I spent a lot of time on that slide, but I think it's just because it's so important, and it's a way to think about SEO, and it's a way to think about content that allows you to create a tremendous amount of focus that you won't have otherwise. Where, oh, what do I write about? I don't know. I'll write an article about the monthly stats or something, which everybody is doing. The key is to be unique, and to start, to think about user intent. There may even be user intentions that I haven't touched on here that are unique to your area. And so I think starting from that sort of conceptual foundation, I think, is going to help you a lot. So just think about that, and then don't let it get overwhelmed or become overwhelming. User intent, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but you can have that user intent and then just focus on doing one thing and do one thing well for a month or whatever it is. So the other thing is, I do want to talk, I'm going to take it down to sort of the plugin level and just talk briefly about some of these DIY tools that are available through WordPress and what they're about. So one of the tools, there are two main tools that I would recommend, and that's Squirrely and Yoast. And those tools are really designed to give you a DIY way to set up what I talked about earlier, which was the sort of baseline SEO. What they don't do is they're not going to create any content for you. What they will do is they'll sort of allow you to get to a baseline level to where you're probably not hurting yourself much. And so relatively speaking, relative to other websites, you're going to be a bit more competitive. But again, it doesn't really address the content issue. And so the first it's intent, then it's content. So what I recommend in terms of that, and I apologize, I'll get into the plugins, those plugins later. But first, let's wrap up the intent and the content. So if you break down the content or the intent into atomic elements or content. So what do you know about an area? Create some bullet points about an area. Start small. Be very focused and just focused on a win. Whether it's, I'm going to create this area page, this market page, and add widgets from IHomeFinder IDX to my page and customize it so it's the results are automatically updated, but then I'm going to customize it with my own content, and I'm going to do that this week, and it's going to be it'll be about this area. You'll find that if you just focus on breaking things down into the atomic, and you're not trying to think about how to make your website be dominate Zillow or anything like that. You're just trying to create a niche, and you're trying to create content for yourself that pays off over time. That's where you start. Create some bullet points. Make it simple. Think about it from a simple standpoint. And then when it comes to the content, present the facts. Be an authority. Make sure you have a call to action on that page. Do you want to learn more? Are you interested in receiving updates about this area? Would you like to do a tour? Anything that can then get that person to engage with you on that page. And again, embedding IDX features like the market reports, listing galleries on these custom pages. But again, just start with one page. One page is fine. And then if you're on target, your visitors are going to stay on the page. They're going to click deeper, and then your ranking will go up over time. So a lot of it has to do with just creating compelling content that engages people. And then again, that starts small. You can start small. Maybe you don't have the time. Maybe you're very busy with transactions. And okay, well, do one a month. If you do one in a month, you're going to be ahead of the game. So, and some of these, especially some of these neighborhood pages, they have a long life. Like once you get ranked in the top 10 or the top 5 in Google, it's going to stay there if you're updating it once a month, or you're doing a little bit of change here and there, even if you don't, it's going to stay there. And then you're eventually going to get that person that either calls or they contact you and they say, I noticed that you're showing up and your name shows up when I search for this area. Tell me more about it. And so what you've done is you created a brand by creating a little niche for yourself with content. And then that will reinforce itself. And then over time, people will perceive that to be your area. And then that, of course, reinforces the SEO. So, and again, I can't say this enough, just start small, just, one page, maybe two. Maybe you have an open house page that you link to, that you send to people that are active and out looking, and you get that to them on a Friday. And then maybe you follow up, it gives you an opportunity to follow up. Well, they're going to go to that page. They're going to click on that page. Maybe they'll search for it. Maybe they won't even, maybe they'll use keywords to find you. If they forget where the link was or they didn't bookmark it. So you're just reinforcing that SEO value by creating more value. So you do that. You can do a virtual tour for your listing. You can have if you've got your own listing and you want to market that, there's so much you can do with that. Now, are you going to show up for that address if somebody searches for the address? Maybe it might happen. I've seen it happen, but it's rare to top a Zillow when it comes to the key to that sort of phrase, just because their domain is going to be have that advantage of millions and millions of dollars. But it can happen too. So in some ways, what you don't want it to happen, because you want that listing to sell quickly and multiple offers. So at the end of the day, it may not be about getting, and this is something you could even tell your sellers, it's not necessarily about getting to the top as much as it is getting that in front of as many brokers as possible and as many people. And so yeah, in terms of the attracting the buyers and sellers to a specific area, again, embedding the market, the dynamic listing gallery into the market page, optimize content, video, anything you can do along those lines to create unique content is going to help you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what these plugins do. So we'll get into this, and I'll speed through it because I'm taking a little longer on these slides than I expected. So Squirrely, I'll just talk briefly about Squirrely. What is it? What is it not? It's not an SEO consultant. They promise to be an SEO consultant, and it's pretty good. It provides a 14-day, this 14-day sort of plan that you can follow, and they get you set up with the right things: Google Console, Google Analytics, so you know how to, what's happening with your website. So if you're moderately technical, this is a great tool, and you're willing to do the 14-day thing, and then you're willing to spend a few hours daily to kind of learn it and go through. It's great to get you to the baseline level. It will probably get you to a baseline level better than Yoast will, but it will also take more time, and it's going to take time out of your day away from the real estate piece and whatever else you're working on. So I do like the Live Assistant tool. If you subscribe, it's kind of valuable in terms of giving you SEO knowledge. But yeah, it's not. It doesn't include Bing, which I always recommend Bing, getting set up with Bing, which is about 20% of traffic comes from Bing. So, but yeah, this Squirrely is pretty good. Yoast is, and both of these are free. They have a free version, and then you have a paid version, and then they're, depending on which one you get. I think Yoast is $89 for the full version, and you can go on their websites and look up and compare the difference. I would say that the best premium feature for Yoast would be the internal linking suggestions, and but that's baseline SEO. That's not creating content or anything like that. I would recommend just using the free version. Stick to one or the other, and don't worry about it too much. Just get the free version initially, And then if you find that you're bumping up against like, oh, I really want this feature, you can subscribe, but at least have the free version on your site, on your website, your WordPress. So it's definitely going to help you. And then you can even view some of the courses and so on. Yoast doesn't offer the sort of walkthrough process that Squirrely does. It's more of sort of do it yourself and just click through pages until you can figure out what you need to do. But
hey, Luke, I would even add real quick, even if people don't get these services, add them to their site, subscribe, etc. They are good resources to keep up to date with what's going on in SEO as far as trends like we're talking about here today. They're great reading resources just to check out.
Yeah, that's a great point. Oh, I would add also Yoast offers the Schema, which is kind of a technical SEO feature. They offer that for free. So Schema Markup is a sort of code that gets transferred with your site that says, this is a person's website. Here's the identity, and passes that on to Google and other search engines. So yeah, so where you begin with all this is up to you in terms of creating content and some of the options available to you. It goes everywhere from do it yourself to potentially on the other end, working with an SEO consultant or working with somebody that's creating content or hiring somebody for that. And we'll kind of outline what those are. I'll talk a little bit about, so from the full DIY, I'll talk about the DIY piece, and then Hank will talk about the IHomeFinder piece, and then my piece is sort of the consultant piece. But full DIY is essentially you're installing these third-party tools, and you can go with free, you can go with premium, and just do it all yourself. You're essentially creating content yourself, so you're doing everything. And I think the content piece is really the most valuable piece here. You're creating that. You're taking time out to create that, and so that's what full DIY looks like. So what I would recommend with full DIY is take a look at what, it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a tremendous amount of transactions in your real estate space, and every hour you spend in the real estate space returns, $200, $300 an hour, I definitely recommend outsourcing rather than DIY. And this is I'm not saying this to sell my services. It's actually from the standpoint of being a realtor and understanding that there's, even in my doing what I do, I will be doing this. I think that you need to optimize your time based on the maximum utility. And in the real estate space, it can be feast or famine. And so when it's a feast, you got to jump in. And maybe when it's a feast, the best option is to go and hire somebody, build a team or outsource or whatever it is to do some of this stuff for you. So that's where the full DIY kind of comes into play. Is like, I think full DIY is going to be a challenge for a lot of people, and so, but there are some people that are going to easily be able to do this, and maybe want to learn all aspects of it. So
Excellent. So the next step up, basically, you have no consulting, no content production with full DIY. It's totally on you. We have an option at IHomeFinder as an add-on for accounts that are, if you have a website account with us, that will add 2 blog posts per month for $60. So what this really does is gives you an entry point into having a content marketing strategy that you don't have to do anything about. It just automatically puts articles on your blog, which is a great benefit. It just takes that work off your shoulders, and you're going to start getting some traction. And these articles are great for sharing on your social channels. So people always are asking us, well, what can I do on my social channels for my marketing? Well, one of the many things you can do is drive people back to your site on a regular basis with links to these articles as they show up in your blog. So that's 2 blog posts a month for $60. And then we have another option, which is more frequent content, which is a 3-month commitment for $500. And that is going to produce 13 blog posts over that period of time. And you get to choose the topics from a range of categories that are appropriate for buyers and sellers. So it's very topical stuff that's great to have on your site. And again, to drive traffic back to your site. And of course, search engines are going to find it and index it and recognize it as fresh, unique content, like Luke was speaking about earlier. So you get a higher volume of that unique content on these topics that you choose. And downside is there's no consulting, and it's less ranking focused. This is not going to provide custom neighborhood pages like we were talking about, or any of those other things, but they are topical for buyers and sellers. And then there's what a consultant can offer and what Luke offers.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about that. So I, for my package, real estate, essentially it's, I'm going to set up the analytics, the advising. It's going to be some one-on-one of just talking through, what are the goals, what are you trying to achieve, that sort of thing. 1 to 2 high quality pages produced per month. So that's focusing on these, what kind of neighborhood do you want to focus on? What's that neighborhood about? Do you have any imagery, that sort of thing? And then dashboard tracking as well. So providing a tracking of all SEO over time to see just like how things sit with Bing, how things sit with Google. What are some of the insights to be learned? And then those insights, go into our twice a month call. So I'll set up a call twice a month where we just check in on everything and make sure that things are moving forward. So
excellent. And we're gonna share Luke's contact information if you need it. Before we get into that, I did want to cover a very special offer we have through the end of December. We are offering our agent or broker CRM plans, website CRM plans with no setup fee, which is a $500 savings. That's normally $500 when you either upgrade to our CRM website plans or if you purchase it. So please take note of our contact information if you're interested in getting a demo, talking with our sales team here about what that would provide you with for your business. It's a great savings through the end of December 31st. And that's for whether you're a new client or an upgrade. You can get all those CRM features with the website bundle. Our contact information, sales@IHomeFinder.com or 866-700-8855. Or you can chat with us during business hours or contact us off hours. Sign up for free trials at IHomeFinder.com. And Luke's contact information is luke@walshseo.com. WalshSEO.com is his website. And I think Luke is open to hearing from you if you have any sorts of questions about SEO.
Yeah, definitely. If anybody has, if you just have general questions or, I'm very familiar with iHomeFinder as well, and I can help guide you to any resources on that. Although I'd recommend that you contact them directly, but I'd very much recommend iHomeFinder. And in terms of any questions you have on the SEO side, just feel free to send those questions to me. It doesn't. I'm not gonna charge you for answering questions that may be useful to you. I actually enjoy this. I enjoy sort of helping realtors understand the technology side a bit more. So I get some joy out of just kind of helping out and connecting with people too, and so on. So
great. That's fantastic. Thank you, Luke. You can all get a demo on our website as well, iHomeFinder.com/iHomeFinder-tour. And please do check out our blog if you don't go there yet. It's full of articles that educational about what's going on in the industry, how to optimize, and get the most value from your account. You can just go to our website, go to resources, and select blog. And now we're going to jump into your questions. And if you just all give me a moment, I'm going to go on mute here for a moment and open up the questions that we've kind of come in. And we're going to go through as many of these as we can. And we'll follow up with you individually if we're not able to get to your questions after the webinar. So I will be right back. Okay, I have everybody's questions here. Question from Lauren. Is it better for SEO regarding user intent to post on very target specific multiple websites or to add pages to my main general website? In other words, buyers, sellers, retired people, probate, should those each be a separate website or just a different landing page on my main website?
I would recommend a landing page on your main website, and it's okay to have those keywords in the URL. So there's been some debate about whether it hurts you to have the keywords in the URL. That's not the case. So just make sure that the URL has the keywords of the main focus for that content. But I highly recommend putting it onto your main site, just because from a simplicity standpoint, it's so much easier to do it that way. Now, if you can create a scenario where you create content that, let's say you create content where you can provide a snippet to somebody else, and it's a totally different website that you don't own, that already has traffic, that could validate your website even further, and then link back to the entire article, that's a great way to focus that energy. So, but overall, I would say focus on having everything on your main website, and then when it comes to content, and if you can take and snippets of content or even create content for somebody else's website, it's okay to not own that, because what you're doing is you're directing all that, and we call it link juice, back to your website and back to the page on your website. So I think overall the best strategy is definitely to keep it on your own, and try not to get too caught up in having all these different domains in different places. It's a lot to keep track of too. It's just, it can be too much.
Okay, great. Moving on to next question from Fiona. Are the articles neighborhood specific or are they general information? I'm not sure which articles you're referring to. If you are asking about the articles that IHomeFinder provides through our content service add-on, if you have a website account, those articles are not going to be relevant to your neighborhoods. They are not local content that way. So if that's what you're asking about, that's the answer to that question.
And I would just add to this that even let's say if you looked at Zillow and their neighborhood content, you have a real opportunity here in the real estate space to represent that local knowledge that they don't have and they won't present, because they would have to figure out that that's a whole business model. That would have to be a whole business model for them. And whereas your business model could just be focusing on 2 or 3 areas or neighborhoods, and then making sure that you, in some cases, you can beat Zillow in those neighborhoods. So this is one area where I've seen Zillow not perform as well as, say, if it's a listing. If you're looking at your own listing and you only have it for 3 weeks before it goes pending, and then it's sold, and then it's no longer really on your website, although it may be a sold listing. At that point, you would optimize it, and then maybe you can beat Zillow. But I think that in many cases, you have an opportunity to outrank Zillow, and it's kind of a bold statement, but outrank Zillow if you're creating unique content and you've mimicked sort of the neighborhood that they've identified. You know, they've got a lot of people that, and you could even look at Zillow's neighborhoods and how they divide them up, and then use those keywords. So I would highly recommend doing something like that. And again, it's not something that you can just find out there. If it were, then everybody would be able to do it. So it takes some effort to get that going. In terms of writing your own content or hiring someone to do it. What's that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm glad Fiona asked that question, because obviously the content that Luke has been talking about, that's really focused on neighborhoods, custom content that's going to be on your site, is obviously really important for generating traffic for those locations. And the distinction between that type of content and the articles that iHomeFinder offers through our content services, it's just different type of content. It's not, the articles that we provide are going to be relevant to buyers and sellers. So they're going to consume it, discover it through search engines, as will the search engines themselves for indexing. So they both complement each other. It's not to say one supersedes the other. They have sort of different purposes. The articles that we're providing through our add-on service really just give you an instant entry into having a cadence of content that's going to help contribute to your overall SEO strategy. And definitely contact our team here to learn more about that content if you have any more questions about it. But thanks for that, Fiona. We have a question from Samantha. Does having social media feeds on my website hurt my SEO or help my SEO?
Does having the social media on the feeds?
Yeah,
sorry, can you repeat that?
having the feeds on the website, embedded. There are tools that will do that.
Yeah, no, definitely widgets and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not going to hurt you. It shouldn't hurt you. It's look at it from the user standpoint. And this is how the Google algorithm looks at things. The user is going to bounce if it's something that's overwhelming them, if it's too much, if it's, they're seeing all of your Instagram and it's taking over the page or something, and they may just say, but if you have it in the feed, it's not going to hurt you at all. And it may help you because it sends a signal to Google that, oh, there's a link to their profile, and then your profile will have a link back to your website. So in fact, it may help you. Just don't do it in a way that overwhelms the visitor or is aesthetically not very pleasing. And then I also wanted to add, I think because for the previous question I sort of misunderstood, but the content, having content on your site, having any sort of content is going to help you relative to a Zillow or anything. So just having something that if it's not totally going to be fully customized because you're not paying for that, having something on there is going to help you much more than having nothing. And so that's, just to echo kind of what Hank was saying there.
Yeah, right. We offer that add-on because we know how tough it is to produce unique content, and we know how important it is to have unique content, just from what Luke just said. So that's your quick win to get content on your site and not have to lift a finger. So that's why we offer that content add-on service. Question from Jason: do blog posts rank higher than landing pages, or does that not matter?
Well, it depends on, like, if you're talking about a landing page, it really won't matter. What matters is what's on the page. A blog post could be a landing page. I would say that maybe the question is, because it's under blog, is it treated as a subfolder, and then those pages in that subfolder are treated as more special? I don't think so. I haven't seen that play out. I think in some ways having too many folders could work to your disadvantage in the SEO space. So you know, having a blog isn't going to hurt you, but if you have a whole bunch of subfolders with a bunch of different content in the subfolders, that's not going to be helpful as if you have something that's direct line of sight from the homepage to, you know, X landing page that's about a neighborhood. And the shorter the URL, the better as well. So, you know, from that standpoint, I would say, no, it really doesn't matter that much. I would just say, if you can shorten it and not have it be on the blog, especially if it's not a blog post, it's an actual, you know, it's a page, and it's permanent. What I would say is, with that page, a blog can sometimes be updated, like posts may be updated, that sort of thing. Just come back and make sure you update the page now and then. That sends a signal out to Google, whether it's whatever neighborhood page it is, even if you just add a few lines or modify it or whatever it is. You know, you having that modified is going to be helpful as well. So, but again, just having any content on you know, that's on your site is going to help you. And the vast majority don't put that much content, if any content, on their website. So you already have an advantage there just by the intention of wanting to get better at doing that.
Great. We got room for one more question here from Amber. Similar theme here from what we've been talking about. When you're writing Geopages, what is a good strategy to help them rank higher than websites like Zillow? Like if I do a page called Real Estate Agent Hanover, Pennsylvania, what content can I incorporate into the page to make it rank on the first page in search engine results?
Okay, for like real estate agent, which is that's a huge key phrase for any area. That is a real challenge. I think that in some cases you can do that through, it will help you to modify, and this gets back to some of the traditional SEO, to really look at your title tag and look at how you show up in results. What does it look like? Do people click on it? Is it compelling? How does it look compared with, you know, so-and-so agent that's showing up as number 2 or 3 or whatever, or 1, when, you know, you search for that key phrase? What do their title tags look like? What does their meta description look like? Maybe it's for a specific brokerage. You know, how do you incorporate that brokerage name with your name in a way that you show up as one of the top in the brokerage? That is an important consideration for sure. I would say the best way to do it would be, there's two ways. One is to focus on that meta tag, the title tag and the description, and you can do that through Yoast or Squirrel. The other is to focus on linking within your site, within your pages. You know, in the IHomeFinder site, if you link and put your name, you know, best real estate agent or something, and it links to your homepage, it's an internal link, that sort of thing. That's going to be really helpful to you. So those are probably the 2 ways to do it: the internal linking and then the title tag and the meta description. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Luke. All right, I'm afraid we've run out of time here. We have a few remaining questions from folks. We'll follow up with you individually, but I want to thank you, Luke, so much for taking the time to join us today and sharing all this really, really helpful information, incredibly relevant and practical. Hopefully people have learned a lot here on what they can do themselves or what they need to pursue if they can't do it themselves. We look forward to doing another follow-up like you mentioned earlier. We'll keep everyone posted here on what our next SEO related webinar might be about and when that's going to take place in the not too distant future, hopefully. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us and taking the time today. Anything else you wanted to add, Luke?
No, I just wanted to say thanks. Thank you, Hank, for helping sort of coordinate and pull together some good content that's useful to people. It's been amazing, and you know, working with you is amazing. I you know, I would just want to say, if anybody has questions, again, feel free to reach out. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to you know, learn a little bit, and hopefully this was of some good use, some usefulness to you in the future. So and have a great new year. And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Luke. Yeah, thanks everybody again. Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2021.
Thanks, Hank.
Thank you. Bye-bye.